Oh, hey Chelsea, how are you today?
Hi, I'm very good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm really, really good. It's the last Friday of the week, which is always the best day. Now, the question that I ask everybody is, how do you like your coffee in the morning?
Oh, exactly like a psychopath, just straight up black. This-
So I learned as like a stat recently. I think I've mentioned it before. I just love it so much that if you're in that entrepreneurial space and you're a business owner and you're particularly an extrovert, it's the black coffee that you go for. And I can't remember the reasons why, but it's almost like you didn't need the extra fluff around it. You just need the straight hardcore caffeine, whereas the introvert tends to typically sit towards the lattes, the milks, and the sugars. How true this is, but this was just a study that I was found.
No, that's not a coffee in my eyes. That's a milkshake that's warm.
See, I'm the weirdo who, as long as it's coffee, I'll have it a variety of different ways. Just give it me, you know.
Actually, I'm trying to be good with hydration and stuff at the moment, so I've been having an electrolyte alongside my coffees. So yeah, maybe that's my fluff.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we spoke about electrolytes on the podcast and making sure it's like in our diets as a business owner, and I highly recommend it to everybody. And I know I live in the US where I can't tell you how much drier it is as an atmosphere, and how much you do actually need to drink that water, and how much it does make a difference than the humid UK. So we're going to talk about some really good stuff today, particularly marketing, my favourite subject, and I don't get to talk about my favourite subject that often on the podcast, so I'm excited for you to be here. And we're going to get into really good stuff at the end of the podcast, so we want to make sure that everybody sticks around to the end. But first, Chelsea, what is it that you do and why do you do it?
Oh, big questions. So, basically, I run a marketing agency. We're called Big Reputation. It is named after a Taylor Swift lyric, who is one of my favourite singers. And I guess the marketing that we do is, as an agency, we work at quite a strategic level with small business owners, predominantly in the UK, and we help them to basically focus on marketing that will actually help them to grow their business and bring in sales. And then why do I do it? I've always been one of those really weird people that's been like obsessed with like brands and how they kind of like work within human culture. I can remember even when I was like at school, it was like, why do these people have those certain shoes, and why does this group of people have this bag? And I don't really know where it came from, but yeah, I've just always been obsessed with like brands and how they can make people feel. And then at uni, I fell into sales and was really bad at cold calling people. So I did a lot of my work on LinkedIn and then fell into marketing that way. So in terms of why I do it, I guess I like making money and I'm just really obsessed with brands.
But it's so true. There's a really fantastic book that I read. Again, this is years ago, and it was called Brands That Change the World. And it is incredibly niche marketing book in the fact that it was like how these marketing campaigns really changed how we behave and how we think and our attitudes as consumers. So anybody who says, oh, marketing is this extra fluff in the background really doesn't understand the impact that marketing can have as us as people. And I'm sure you've got some examples, but the big one that comes to my mind was until like the 1910s, until the 1920s, females didn't shave. We didn't shave at all. Like, as we were just all natural, and that was the norm. But then a razor company came along, and I dare say it was Gillette or one of the big old brands, came along and was like, we need to increase our revenue by 50%. When we look at the market, I'm going to talk in marketing language here. When we look at the market, what is our marketing or revenue potential of which we could go as an opportunity? Obviously, if we can just market to another gender, that's just going to increase us twofold, isn't it? So It went from males doing shaving their beard and everything, and that had been established ages ago to, hey, look, females, I think you guys should shave, and it's way more popular to be clean.
Yeah, I think that's a really good example, actually. The one I was thinking of was obviously Coke making Santa red, and then that whole 10,000 steps a day, because like I think some Chinese company had obviously created the pedometer, which you need to track your steps. Not many people would want to do. But now it's like the first thing I do every morning. Like, how many steps have I got to do today? Did I hit my steps?
But it's so true. And like, if we circle back to the Santa one, that's one of my favorite ones, because if you look at all the illustrations of, like, I'm doing quotation marks so people are listening, quotation mark Santa, he was tall, he was skinny, he was green, he was short, he was fat. And why Santa is red? It's because of Coca-Cola. Like, it's insane. And we just, like, completely over time have lost that connection between the two. But saying that, when the Coca-Cola red truck comes on into the advertising, and I don't know if this is a very UK cultural thing, but as soon as the Coca-Cola red truck, comes onto our advertising, to me that's the signal of the start of Christmas.
Yeah, 100%. Coming.
So, okay, so obviously this is a podcast for small businesses. It is for business owners, and there's a lot of misconceptions. There's a lot of gaps in business owners' knowledge when it comes to marketing, and that is definitely not at the fault of them. Yourself has been studying marketing for a very long time. Myself has been studying for a very, very long time. And I would probably definitely say I don't know everything, because the subject is massive.
I think back to that as well, like as small business owners, you'll have gaps in your knowledge in whichever area you're not. Like, the first thing I did when I set this business up, for example, was like go and find an accountant, because like I'm a good salesperson, I can make money, but I was like, well, to stay in business, like I know that most businesses fail because of cash flow management, like, so I need an accountant to stop us doing that. So I think, like, first up with like business owners, like it's not a problem if you don't know much about marketing. Like, you're not meant to.
Yeah, exactly. I run a business now for 15 years. I have never done my accounts, and I will happily admit that, because it has always been delegated to a person who is far better and superior than I am, because I'm the same as you. I would rather sit in the creative sales and marketing seat, because there's enough for me there, than to be when working out that data behind it. So talking about the accountancy and cash flow and almost the planning, because you've got to work out, okay, what is my budget for what I can allocate to the marketing, and what is actually, I'm going to phrase this in a way, how much budget is enough budget to get the results that I want, and how can I most effectively manage that?
Oh, that is a very good question, and at the risk of like kind of dismissing it, it's almost like how long is a piece of string. I can tell you what we do with clients, and what we tend to do is we have like a kind of calculator, and into that goes a few variables. So it's like their last year's annual turnover, or if they're relatively new in the startup game, it's like kind of what's your goal for this year. Secondly, if obviously they're already an established company, it is what is your goal for this year, and then we can see the gap between what they did last year and what the goal is this year. Then we look at kind of I guess where in the market they sit, like what does a company do. So for example, like if it's a print company, it's quite an archaic business model. There's often quite a lot out there, then we kind of judge demand on that. Whereas like if it's a startup doing something really innovative, where on that innovation curve do they actually sit? So there's a lot of things that go into it before we can even start to answer how much budget you have. But also it's like, how much do you actually want to grow? How much market share do you want to have? What are your competitors spending on their marketing? And also, what's the best way that we can actually target this in a cost-effective way? Do you need a team of people, or do you need outsourced support that can offer you more than like one coordinator can? There's so many variables, and it is just a genuinely difficult conversation to have with someone when you're sat down with them in a sales meeting, and it's like, well, what should my budget be? It's like, we don't know. We need to go and look at all of this.
Yeah, and what I love, just even in that brief that brief explanation, is it is more controllable than you might think as a business owner.
100%.
You know,
there's a formula to it. You just need to know the formula.
Yeah, exactly. And it's always that saying, the output is going to give you a probability of the likelihood of going forward, of this is the worst case scenario, this is the best case scenario. And if you've ever grown a business with investors, it'll always track around the middle of that scenario. I know, because I've worked with a lot of businesses who get investment, and that numbers game becomes incredibly. You have to be incredibly more precise, and it always tracks in the middle of what your worst and the best of think of what you're going to get. But that's I just want to really just wanted to make sure we really emphasised that marketing isn't just, hey, just take 10% off the annual turnover from last year and just throw it at marketing. There's a lot more variables to it, like you said, of, okay, what's the business goals? I really, really liked that you brought that out. Why is that so important?
I think it's like with anything, like if you start with the end in mind, like I guess to answer this maybe in a different way, one of the first conversations that we have with our clients as small business owners is, what is this business to you? Is it a lifestyle business, or are you hoping to kind of like really like go great guns and sell this maybe within 5 to 10 years? Because the way that we would do that then is, like, if it's great guns and they want to go for it, naturally they'll tend to put more money back into the business, invest it to get it to a stage. Whereas if it's a lifestyle business, you've got to be super realistic. If they've got to pay themselves and they want to fund a really nice lifestyle and then spend what's left over on marketing. So ultimately, only the owner, or like I guess the owners of a company, can decide that business structure. As marketing, you can help people to achieve their goals, but if the business structure isn't aligned with what they're saying, like as an external consultant, we can consult them, but we can't make those big decisions and get them to act in a certain way. They've got to be bought into the vision that they have set for the company, and help and realize that we're there to help them achieve whatever they've told us that is. Like, we have clients that are both lifestyle businesses and some that also genuinely want to like sell it within a couple of years and make a lot of money. We're happy to work with both. We just want to know what that goalpost is when we set out of working with them.
Because I feel like you've absolutely nailed it on the head. It's like people, when you see the shiny business owner on Instagram, as an example, with maybe this luxurious lifestyle, you don't know, what you don't see in the Instagram is those two factors. You don't know if that business owner is just sucking everything out of that business, which is perfectly fine. You know, they know how much money is coming into that business, of what's kind of reoccurring, what's predictable, but they're not reinvesting it in there. They're just enjoying its worth. But then that's versus the other business owner who is literally pumping everything back in. And that's where we get the founder, where the founder has no money. You know, it's the opposite of what people's perception is, where they have no money, but they are typically, from my experience, is they're playing the long game. They're in this for a completely different reason, but behind it. Now, I want to move on to one of the other things that you said, because you said first, when we're looking at our budget, when we're looking at our planning, we're thinking, like we just said, we're looking at the goals. We're looking at the personal goals of the business owner. The second thing that you said was almost the market fit of the industry that they're in, the product offer, the market fit. How does that come in and factor into the planning stage?
So when a lot of people come to us, we tend to get kind of like either we want to do something new, so we're either a new company or we're launching a new service area, or it could be we're having trouble with our sales and our cash flow. And that usually tends to say to us, like, we've either got a really innovative company, or we've got a company that's like maybe been stuck in their ways for a little bit too long and has struggled to diversify or to innovate when they needed to. So with marketing, you've got like different matrices around like, okay, what is the actual goal here? Is it a diversification plan? Do we need to help, like, for example, like a print business? Do they need to start doing more digital offerings? A lot of the time, they'll have designers in there that are doing design work for like brochures, anything CMYK. Well, can they start doing design work that could be used in digital assets? Because obviously there's a bigger market for that. That would be a great diversification. How would we kind of use the resource that they've already got and use it to bring in some cash flow for them, and like not kind of stress them out too much and make them have to reinvest or completely change? It's like, what can we do with the resource they've already got? Or it could be, for example, with one of our clients, they are really innovative in their industry, but because they're so innovative and their industry is quite an archaic one, a lot of educational marketing needs to go out to that industry around why it needs to change. So they're two very, like, both of them will come to us and say, we want to do something new, but it's the whole kind of context behind it, and getting that means that, okay, is this a do we need to help them with their service offerings and like their messaging and targeting different people? Or is it like, actually, they've already got a ready-made audience there, they just need to educate them as to why this is important?
And there's so much here to dive into. But first, if a business, what are some of the signs and signals if the business does need to pivot, to slightly diverse, to change? And I'll give you an example. If they've said the phrase, "Oh, this is how we've always done it."
I mean, if that's how you've always done it and it's still working for you, then like, I'm kind of the opinion of like, don't reinvent the wheel. But if you've always done it that way, and I'd say over the last 2 years, you've seen a decrease, in sales, and you're starting to get that like kind of squeaky bum feeling, like, oh, something needs to change, this is starting to like give me sleepless nights, then that's probably a good sign that you need to pivot. If you are becoming, I guess, like redundant in your market, and that some businesses will have that than others, like especially like marketing agencies, using us as an example, like marketing is a really fast-paced industry and things change all the time, whereas like if you are a joiner, for example, like that's not going to change all of the time, but the way that you're marketing yourself might not be how people are consuming information these days. Like if I get a brochure land on my desk, don't really read it. If someone's like, if I see something on TikTok, then I will, but like I'm a 28-year-old business owner.
Yeah, exactly. I think you've nailed it in that. If you've always done it the way you've always done it, but you can see your revenue is just doing this steady decline down. Sometimes it's really hard to spot, because it's just, unless you look over like a 5 or 10 year period, because it is just slowly screeching down. That might be the signal that you might need to look towards your risks, your opportunities, and what else is out there that is valuable to your skills.
I think like a really obvious one that probably everyone will get is like, everyone's probably got a Netflix subscription now, but when was the last time you watched a DVD?
Yeah. Talk about diversification and evolutions. This is such a great example. Netflix. I remember my very first Netflix subscription when it was still on DVD. So, yeah, this is so old. I'm not the old people, okay? Netflix, this is so genuine. Netflix, we use a Netflix account when it's still DVD, and what would happen is I think you got like between like 5 or 10 different DVDs per month of different movies, and you can obviously watch it, and then you send it back into the post, and then it comes back and things like that. And that's what you did. You just kept on like sending back and forth these DVDs. And I genuinely nearly unsubscribed from Netflix before Netflix was the platform we know it of today, because the DVDs used to just come scratched all the time because they were being used all the time. And I think internally they knew about this problem. They knew about this unsubscribe of people just getting frustrated that they couldn't watch the film that they wanted to watch because there was a scratch on the DVDs from the high use of it. And then they thought, like you said, without print, how can we make this digital so that you just log in onto the computer, because they had a technology change within their industry, that they could have smart TVs, could have these platforms to then watch it, and that now it's this huge, massive company that we know today. So because of their change, because of their pivot, the Netflix is this massive company that we all know as like the household name.
Yeah, and it's incredible as well, like in terms of diversity, because they produce their own shows now.
Yeah, exactly. They've diversed even again.
Yeah, and it is. I think it's like, but I think unless you're super visionary, like it is genuinely really hard to spot that. And most small business owners tend to be incredible at what they do. But they may be like a lot of the people that we work with, for example, are kind of like construction or manufacturing. And they're incredible, like tradespeople, for example, but might not be overly commercial, or they don't really know how to position their things in a way that would generate wider interest. All they're good at doing is like they know their industry inside out.
Yeah, exactly. So let's take that as a point then. So with the manufacturing engineering, and I would agree with them, they're incredible at like the details of their product. And actually, we've just been talking about the product fit within a market, whether their market is in incline or a decline. So if but what we haven't talked about, because that's not really the marketing seat, really. It's like if you get to the bigger companies, you've got the product manager, you've got the sales, you've blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But what we do have in the marketing seat is the messaging and the value proposition. So why is that so important when we have a scenario where the business owner is just the expert about what they do?
So I think a lot of the time, if someone is an expert about what they do, and especially if they're the business owner as well, because they tend to have some sort of a vision, what I've noticed is they can sometimes slip into I call it like billboard marketing, where it's like you're literally just like you're talking at people, and it's almost like it can be a bit preachy. It's like we do this, and they focus so much on like features and benefits that they almost forget that kind of like emotional pull that actually draws people towards them. They're just there saying like I don't know, like keep it manufacturing. What does one of our manufacturing clients literally just sells screws, like you need to buy this screw for this, and that would be like what their marketing would have said before. And actually it's like kind of more things is like, don't you just hate it when you've bought some flat pack furniture and they don't send you enough screws? That's something that we can all relate to, right? Because like it happens all the time.
Exactly, because like trust us, no one ever wants to buy a screw. Like nobody wakes up and is like, do you know what I really want today? I want some screws. No, what do we actually want? We actually want the bedside cabinet to be built next to our bed, or we want that new desk to be sorted, or we want to hang up that picture that we want. And that's actually, it's the afters, it's the after effects of what comes with a screw is what we really want than the screw itself, because that is incredibly dull and boring.
Much, yeah, and I think it's like it's really weird actually. I've just been saying this to our team. So someone said to me once, they were like, so you work mostly with like manufacturing, professional services, construction clients, but like your branding literally looks like you're selling luxury handbags. And I was like, I can see that. But like the thing that we're incredible at doing is where a lot of our clients sit, they're either the manufacturers, so they do have like kind of factories and warehouses, or they're kind of in the middle of a supply chain. So it's actually really difficult for them to go out and get kind of like end result marketing, and you know, like kind of really expensive photo shoots because they need sets built and examples and stuff. What we're really, really good at is helping them in a very cost-effective way is to show the end result of that product or service or build that they're doing in a way that engages people but also inspires people by saying that. And actually now we've got some really lovely like imagery, videography, that showcases this. So actually, I think if we did put it in kind of our branding as our case studies, it wouldn't look out of place in a glossy magazine, because we focus so much on showing the end result of what our clients do, which is most of the time what people want. They want to know that they're going to do a good job. Or we've got a client that does like kind of acoustic slat panels and stuff for DIY projects. People want to feel inspired, and it is that end result. Like, people don't want the boring in the middle. They just know that they're going to have the end result that they want.
So let's break that down. So that they do what? Acoustic.
We sell acoustic slat panels. Like,
and what does that do?
Basically, like, instead of like, you know, like if you want to do your house up, and you've seen those like kind of timber panels that like can put on a wall, so it looks like it's basically paneling for a wall.
Yeah.
So they literally just sell those. So import them in from like different countries in loads of different designs. But because they import them, they don't make them. They're not made in this country, and then they sell them on to other people. They're reliant upon user-generated content. So people who have completed their DIY project that take a picture and then send it in. UGC content is great, but you get very varying levels of quality when you're relying on other people to take them. So what we've done with that client specifically is we've created mood boards for them to inspire people. This paneling and this colour would work really well with these sorts of things, and like basically like we've taken them to Pinterest so that like people can start to kind of like feel inspired around like this product can fit really nicely here, and we've made it a much more collaborative process with our audience. Then it's like taking something that like is pretty much just wood, but made it something that's exciting for people.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you actually put the product down on paper, it's like it's wood. It's wood for your house.
Yeah, pretty wood.
So, and then actually, like you said, you start with the colour and you start with the mood boarding. Generally, when you said acoustic slat panels, this is how little information I knew. I thought it was something around like the sound it makes, the environment that it kind of causes.
Yeah, to be fair, so like for podcast studios and stuff, they'd be great because it dampens the sound. But if you do video, actually, it wouldn't be great because it would knock your video quality off.
And that's a social post in itself. That's a way better explaining the features. Is like you do the before and after, somebody with their audio and making the audio really not nice at all, to then the audio being like the super crystal soothing noise, and then it becomes real obvious what the benefits is, because you've just I always say it's the movie technique of showing it rather than saying it.
Yeah, I think you've got so many businesses out there that like look at all of our 5-star reviews and look at this and look at that, and it's like, that's great, but like I am a firm believer that people buy on an emotional level, and then all of that kind of rational stuff they just use then to kind of either rationalize it to themselves or rationalize it to their investors that they're trying to get on board.
Yeah, well, that's the law of marketing, isn't it? You go in with the feelings first, and then make sure the logic is backed behind it. So then in the brain, because it's just obviously it's like our frontal lobe and our back lobes and all of that. That's just how we operate as humans. And that's kind of a nice little kind of circle of today's podcast of this, human perception, how our psychology works when we're taking in this information, and that's then the law behind it. Then. So kind of just like another like a final question of today's podcast, because I'm sure at this point everybody's been taking all of these like absolute nuggets of information of how they can be rethinking their business, rethinking their product. So we very briefly kind of touched on then how does someone go about their messaging, and why is that important? Because we've talked about the output, talked about the product. Yeah, what's that messaging process look like, and why is it important?
So I'll start with why it's important. Your messaging is a bridge between you and your customer, and if you get that right, then you'll never have any trouble in selling. And coming on to selling, if you've got salespeople in your organisation, as a marketing person, they should be your best friend. They should be, because they're the ones having conversations with your customers on a day in, day out. Sales, customer services, like, go make friends with them, because like they know the language that customers are talking in. They probably get asked the same question X amount of times a week. That'd be a great educational piece. Like, the more things that you can do in your marketing and in your messaging to make your salesperson's life a lot easier is essentially going to make sure that you actually do make that sale as a company. Like, people, what you want to try and get to with your marketing, especially if it's business to business marketing, is to have no doubt in anybody's mind that you are the person or you are the company to actually solve that problem for them. And the best way that you can do that is every single question that your salespeople get asked, aim to create a piece of marketing around it and then put it on your website or part of your sales process, out on your social media, so that people's questions are already answered before they even speak to you the first time.
I think if there's anything, any tidbit that somebody can take away from that from today's podcast, that is the action, because it is such a simple. I say simple, but it is a simple part of the process that you can put into your business. Whether you, the business owner, is the salesperson, or you've got a salesperson, that feedback loop to the team, to the product, to the marketing, and then be actioning it is vital for any innovation in the business, and also closing that sale, which is super hard.
True, yeah, and I think that's why everyone's in business, really. Like, let's cut to the chase. Everyone wants to close a sale and make money, but I think like it is easier said than done, and a lot of the work that we do is around sales and marketing alignment with our clients, because it's really easy for me to sit here and say make friends with the salesperson in your company, but like, actually, if you look at most structures, marketing and sales are targeted completely differently, and it doesn't always help. They're very segmented. Whereas actually, like, as a business owner, if you can look at your structure of how you're actually doing this and make sure that even if you're not giving them the exact same kind of commission structure or reward structure, you're at least targeting them on the same thing. What you don't want is to have sales turning around saying, well, we're not getting great leads, and then marketing to be like, well, we're bringing in loads of leads and you're not closing any of them, so it's your fault. And you see it, I'd say, in 8 out of 10 companies that is the case.
Yeah, 100%. You know, so let's say business owner, they want to avoid that conflict, which does happen in every business. And they actually want to make sure that sales and marketing are the bestest of buddies. What are some of your top tips on how they can create that feedback loop?
I'd say instead of having separate sales meetings and separate marketing meetings, have at least one monthly kind of like revenue generation meeting where, like, I think a lot of the time in some marketing roles, they have kind of financial targets removed from them completely. They can also be used as they can also be kind of put into that kind of like admin power dynamic as well, where they're kind of placed underneath the salespeople, and the salespeople are driving it. Naturally, with salespeople, they tend, unless you get a really good one, they tend to be quite short-term focused. They just want to hit this quarter's target. Marketers should actually sit a level above that and think about what's actually best for the brand. So I think it's just getting that internal structure around, like, okay, yes, this person has this quarterly target on them, but is them hitting that quarterly target to the detriment of like what could happen to this business in a year's time? Does it fit with the overall marketing and business goal plan, not just like, generate this revenue? And then I think making them kind of like, I love the same where it's like you and me versus the problem. Instead of sales and marketing saying each other are the problem, actually the problem is, most of the time, we're not making enough revenue as a business. How can we, business owner, marketing person, salesperson, solve that problem?
And if we loop it all the way back to the planning, we go back to the planning, we go back to the goals, we go back to the CEO, we go back to the vision, and then we go, right, what's our resources and what's the best way can we be allocating them to the revenue goal that we've got for the next 12 months or next quarter.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, coming back to, I guess, like that plan, marketers love a plan. We do tend to be quite long-term thinkers, and that's where it can, I think, differ sometimes with salespeople when they just want to make sure that they're getting next month's bonus. Like, I think making sure that everyone is aligned in that way and everyone is always continually working towards that plan.
I'm going to leave it there because I think there's so much to be digging into it. And say if somebody's listened to this podcast and they want to get in touch with you because they want to find out more, what's the best ways to find you?
So I'm Chelsea Spencer on LinkedIn, and you can visit our website at www.bigreputation.co.uk.
Perfect. We'll make sure it's all on the links on this show as well, so people to easily access them and be able to get in touch with you. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been my favourite subject, and I hope to see you again soon.
You too. Take care.